Assalamu alaikum everyone. I'm jumped on this live to give you guys an update and to talk about so one thing that I advise for people preparing for marriage, or if you are already married, I think that this will be really helpful. And it's not something that is conventional or perhaps that you might think is obvious, but it is if there was one piece of advice that I could give with all the work that I've done around marriages, this would be it. Please feel free to ask any questions. I'll try and stay on as short or as long as I need to. So updates, I've been really quiet on here. Alhamdulillah, I had my baby boy. He's nearly 3 months old now. Don't know where the time's gone. So been busy really with, new baby and adjusting to everything. And my health wasn't very well after I had him. Hence not really posting much and not being really active on Instagram. So I thought I would jump on. I know it's late. So hopefully this will be recorded and then you guys can listen in later. Okay, so there's so many things that I could say to you guys about marriage and things that you should prepare, whether that's before or after. But this particular piece of advice is a perspective change. And I feel like when we can really embrace this, it will help us not just in our marriages, but in life in general. Okay, so anybody that's joined, Assalamu alaikum. I was just updating that I've not been on because I've had my baby. Alhamdulillah, he's well. And the last few months have just been a whirlwind, so not really had a chance to get on, do any videos, any posts, because I wanted to really spend that, the early weeks of his life for myself with the postpartum and with him. And as I said before, you're welcome to ask any questions and inshallah I'll do my best to answer them. Okay, so if you are happy to share this as well, then that'll, please do so. And it might help others as well, inshallah. Okay, so as I was saying before, what do I believe is the, kind of the important things to prepare for in terms of marriage. And when I talk to couples and individuals, often we're looking at communication, conflict resolution. We're looking at things that they're getting stuck on and they don't know how to solve, value differences, family differences. So there's all of this usually to do with, how do we sort out differences? How do we navigate through things? So essentially, my biggest advice is find out for yourself and work on the concept of hardship. And this is where our deen is really rooted, and our Islamic values play a big part in this. So one of the ways to reconcile this is what happens is we go into marriage with all of these ideas around how it's going to be and what it's going to do for us and all the good things that we're going to get. And absolutely, I agree. Marriage has huge blessings and it enables us to grow in ways we could never imagine. It allows us to have family, connection, belonging, all of those things. And the institute of marriage is so important for society and for us as an ummah to grow. And all of that is good to be positive and to look forward to. It is absolutely true. However, one of the things that we know in Islam and we know as Muslims is that we're here on earth to be tested and that we will always have hardship. And I think sometimes what happens is when it's within our marriage, we sometimes can't reconcile that. So because we're expecting it to be, because love is attached to this, we think that love can't be with pain or with hardship. and it becomes very difficult for people to manage. And so one of the invitations I give to couples and advice to myself, first and foremost, is that whether it be our marriages, whether it be anything in life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that we would be tested. And if we can remember that, if we can remember that actually, you know, our purpose in life is to pass those tests. So if that's done through my marriage, then so be it. And so what I'm really saying here is understand how we look at hardship and understand how we approach hardship and the ways in which we view hardship. Because what we're finding, especially in this day and age with Instagram and this idea of this toxic positivity and always wanting to be happy, and the goal is to be happy, the goal is to always be glamorous on these photos and everything to be perfect. And in reality, most people are not living that way. And the truth is, actually, most people will struggle with something. We will all be struggling with something. And it just so happens that Allah is so merciful and so kind that He gives each of us our unique test. So what might, be difficult for me might not be difficult for you, and what might be difficult for is this idea around how we look at hardship and our expectations of marriage, especially when it's linked to love. So because we love that person, we have this idea that therefore, there should be no pain and it will all be rosy and easy. And when it's not, what tends to happen is we blame the other person. We somehow think that, they're in charge of our happiness, when there needs to be a huge paradigm shift in how we look at that as Muslims, which is absolutely our spouses can be a trial upon us. Our parents can be a trial upon us. Our children can be a trial upon us. And so when we look at it that way, we become less hurt. It's not as personal to us. And because the attachment isn't to the other person, we are able to then deal with it in the correct manner, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that we would be tested. And this is my test, and and it's my unique test, which basically means that Allah wouldn't give you a test that you can't pass. So you might look at other people and think, oh gosh, but they haven't got this test. Theirs is easier or theirs is different. It's very easy for us to do that. It's very easy for us to compare other marriages. But believe me, everybody is tested. And sometimes we're fooled into thinking if somebody's happy and getting on with things, that somehow they're not tested. But it could be that they're not living within the boundaries of Allah. It could be that, in that happiness, they could be disobeying Allah, not praying, so many things that we just think that they've got this happiness on earth, when in reality, that's not the true happiness. Happiness is found in our deen, in obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then through that, and when we're content with that life that Allah has given us, and we're content with whatever hardships Allah has chosen for us, only then will we find that inner peace. Otherwise, we just will keep spinning and spinning and spinning into dismay and looking at our spouses to fulfill us, and looking, and being disappointed that our marriages didn't give us the thing that we wanted. So now looking at it from the lens of really a perspective change, which is, okay, if hardship, if we really believe that, hardship is a part of life, and we don't have to be scared of it, or we don't have to be disappointed if it's there, we don't have to feel like something's missing. Imagine how, different we'd feel. Imagine how much freer we would be. Think about something that you're going through or you've gone through. Think about the way you looked at that. Were you saddened by it? Were you angry? Were you disappointed? Did you think, I can't handle this? Or why me? Did you blame the other person? All of those things are still within our control. And when we approach it that way, what are we left with? We're the ones that are left with anger and resentment and hurt and loneliness and heartbreak. But if we looked at hardships differently, in the sense that, you know what, Allah tests everybody. I'm not special, and yet I am special because He is testing me. And if we looked at it in the sense that, you know what, I can handle things, Allah wouldn't have given me this if I couldn't handle it. And all of this, one day, you know, will be a means for me to enter Jannah. And that actually, why can't I handle something hard? You know, where did we get this idea that everything was supposed to be easy? You know, I think that we, especially in the West, taught a lot about this idea of being happy, being carefree, not having anything. You know, ease doesn't help us grow. If you look at anything in your life and you think back, when was the, you know, what were the things that helped you grow? What were the things that really built your resolution, built your confidence, helped you navigate through life? It was the hardships. You know, it was the things that you thought would wear you down, you thought you can't manage, and you did. And it gave you a sense of purpose. It gave you a sense of, you know what, I can do it. I have done it. I'm not going to be put down. I'm not going to, you know, let things get to me. And when you shift that attitude towards looking at something, you know, think about the next time when you find yourself saying, oh, this is too difficult, this is too hard, I can't do it anymore. What if we change that narrative that, no, absolutely, so what if it's difficult? You know, this, when you go through, I find this, you know, within couples that it gets difficult and then it's almost like, oh, this is hard, therefore we shouldn't be married. And I don't think that's true. You know, marriages go through times where it's hard and times when there's ease. So if we walk away every time it's hard, what are we really saying? You know, what's going to happen when next time something gets hard? Are we going to be able to just walk away then too? Instead, you know, before you prepare for marriage and when you're speaking to your spouse, think about looking at it differently. That yes, this is difficult. Yes, this is hard. But who said that we can't do it? Who said that we can't get through this? Who told you that? You have Allah by your side. And if you are in that marriage for the sake of Allah, and you've got to check your intention, you've got to, do some deep introspection within yourself, and you've got to ask yourself, when I'm hurt, when I'm, maybe having problems with my spouse, am I taking ownership, and am I doing things for the sake of Allah? Or is it because I really wanted something from them, from another human being? Because if you're still at that stage, you will always keep getting hurt. And part of that reason is Allah didn't create our hearts to get attached to things, to ilahs other than Him. Our hearts were supposed to be attached to Allah. And what you'll find is, if it's done and you are attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and your heart is in the right place, everything else will fall into place. Because Allah told us, when we chase after the dunya runs away. So it's like, when you get to that stage and maybe you're having problems and you're thinking, gosh, I need somebody, whether that's our parents or our spouse or a friend, and you feel like heartbroken that they let you down. I think we've all experienced that. And you're at that point where, and I know for myself, I have, I've been at that stage where you're literally like begging, and you can't understand why, you keep getting hurt or why this is happening. And it's until I really shifted and I thought, I keep begging, another human being. I'm not like disgracing myself. I'm not putting Allah first. That the purpose of everything I'm doing is for love or for my marriage or for the other person. And when I shifted that, when I really came to terms with, no, it's for me, for me, with Allah first and foremost, everything changed. So I'm going to try and close off here. If anybody's got any questions, I've got a question here, but I want to conclude with this is one big shift is to think about how you look at hardship. Expect hardships, if you actually go in saying, do you know what? Yeah, there's going to be the good days, but there's also going to be hardships. And my work is to ask myself, how do I as an individual and how do we as a couple deal with hardships? What's our attitude towards it? What do we see it as? Is it something scary or is it something of a challenge? Is it something that we think, you know what, this isn't going to break us, it's going to make us? Which way are you going to look at that? Because depending on how you look at hardship, it's going to change everything around your marriage. Okay, so I have a question here. Excuse the car outside. I think they're joyriding. So does it mean not having expectations of your spouse? So whatever you do for your kids. Sorry, let me read that again. Does it mean not having expectations on your spouse? So whatever that you do for you and your kids, you're grateful. So there's a few elements to this, and it's a good question. We're allowed to have the word expectations as well. Really think about that. When we expect something, we're already setting ourselves up to fail, because an expectation means that we're relying on something on another person, and we can't control other people. So I would really look at that word, like, what are we expecting? Are those expectations, and I would change the word expectations to agreements. And I do a lot of work with this with clients. So instead of I expect this and I expect that, does the other person know what my needs are, what my wants are? And do they agree? Like, we can expect things all day long, but we've got to make sure that the other person is on board. And that can work with children. Like, I can expect my child to clean up after herself, but has she agreed to that? And I don't mean like she's going to sit there and write a contract with me, but there's got to be a mutual understanding between us. So I've got to be able to say to her, look, after we wash up, I really appreciate that a part of our values is that you help Emma clean up. And she knows that that's there. Whereas if I have the expectation and she's not fully aware and she's not on board, what might happen? I'll get annoyed. I might, yell. I might shout. She might say, I don't know what you mean. She might get scared. There's all of these other consequences that come with expectations. So part of the work to do in our marriages is to slow down and think about, are there things that are, unsaid or not clear? And can we, visit that and say, look, there's this thing that I am needing or wanting or I'm expecting, but I've not really communicated. And then you have to see if the other person's willing, on board to do that. That's part of how we communicate. So yeah, one of the exercises that we do is we say replace expectations with agreements. And then yes, gratitude is a huge one in marriage. The more grateful we are, the more that we can focus on what they do rather than what they don't do. Inshallah, that will help. No, it's okay. I know the typo's there, and it's late here as well, so my eyes are like squinting to see. So it wasn't just your typo, but thank you for correcting. So how do you get them to be on the same page and not back out of agreements? So again, you've got to understand, why would somebody back out of an agreement? If somebody's agreed to something, if it's done in the right way, then usually people don't back out. They might get it a little bit wrong in the process, and you can always go back. But if you set the agreement up right from the beginning, which is, actually, what's in this for me, what's in this for you, is it a common goal? So what we're looking at is values. And if together you can come up with values that align and you can talk about differences, that's when you'll come up with good agreements. Otherwise, I always say this, never assume that your spouse is a mind reader. You know, a lot of us do this. You know, I'm probably guilty of it, not so much now, but when I was younger, and I see a lot of couples do this, and it's very easy to fall into. So you're kind of like, well, he should know, or she should know, or that's obvious, or how can they not know that? Well, no, don't assume that nobody's a mind reader. You've got to pretend that you've got to really go into it thinking, actually, I've got to be as clear as I can. And if there's something that is ambiguous or I just expect them to know, why? Why would we do that? It creates so much miscommunication. It leaves people guessing. Then afterwards, there's lots of problems around, but I thought this and you thought that. So overall, it does cause problems. So be really clear. Don't allow any guesswork in your relationship where it's, they should know, I should know. Essentially, the rule of thumb is don't expect anybody to be a mind reader in the relationship. Have I said it out? Is it clear? Have I said it in a clear way? If I have an expectation, have I made that clear? And, have I requested rather than demanded that something happen? And the more you have of that mutual understanding, the better the relationship will be, inshallah. Are there any other questions? And if not, then I'll summarise and close off today's little talk. I've enjoyed this. I've missed doing this work. Being a new mum, it's like mush brain at the moment. But alhamdulillah, it's so nice to have a little one after all these years. Yeah. So I'm gonna summarize, and then I'm gonna go. And so just for the people that have joined, we were talking about preparing for marriage, and one of the key things is to prepare for hardship. Don't go into marriage thinking, oh my gosh, there's not going to be hardship. And look at the way you look at hardship. Is it something that you're scared of, something that frightens you, something that is like, not supposed to happen, everything's supposed to be easy. If it does happen, do you become overwhelmed? Because at the end of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us he's going to test us. And Allah also told us that when he tests, the believers, he will not burden us with more than we can bear. And if we can remember those two things, they will get us through a lifetime of hardships and challenges that we face in our marriages. Because at the end of the day, we're going to be going back to Allah. And just be easy on yourselves. Don't make, sometimes it can be overwhelming and you think, oh my gosh, like this is too much. Remember, things are in seasons. Nothing lasts forever. No pain lasts forever. And for believers, the beauty is we will die one day, and when we do, Allah has prepared Jannah for us. So nothing lasts forever. And if you can just hold on to that, you can find so much peace, and you don't get overwhelmed when you do have an argument or something goes wrong, or you feel like things are, the more positivity you have, the more you think well of Allah and you have hope in Allah, the better your mental health will be, the better you'll cope, the less overwhelmed you'll be and flooded you'll be, the less anxious you'll be around the problems. And instead just thinking, no, you know what? We've got this. I can handle this. I'm strong. I'm a believer. Allah is with me. And think that way and feel joy. And don't let, those hardships put you down to such an extent that, you become despondent. And that's what I would leave you with. Jazakallah khairan for everyone for listening. And if you would like me to do more of these, please let me know. And inshallah, I'll jump on and do them. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.